So what was wrong with the New Deal? Well, liberals said the New Deal doesn't go far enough to help the poor and change the economic system. They said we should, in a lot of cases, socialize everything. The government should take control of all industry, and that everyone should get paid the same, and sounded a lot like communism, socialism. The liberals didn't think the New Deal went far enough. Conservatives, on the other hand, thought that Roosevelt went way too far. Okay, too much money on direct relief and government intervention. It looked like to them he was socializing the economy. So you have Roosevelt takes an attack that gets attacked by both sides. Liberals thought he doesn't go far enough. Conservatives thinks he goes way too far. This is an argument that still goes on. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's look at some of the critics of the New Deal and what their problem was. Pause here. One of the big ones, Catholic priest Father Coughlin. He's pushed for something called social justice. He said that what we should do is have a guaranteed income for all, and we should nationalize all the banks, take over all the banks, guarantee that everyone gets a certain amount of money. He had a very popular radio show, okay, thousands and thousands of listeners. And he was really gaining traction, and this argument was doing well until he decided to start blaming everything on the Jews. He became very anti-Semitic. He lost his audience, and FDR kind of pushed him to the side. So, second guy, Dr. Francis Townshend. And Townshend came up with a national pension plan for senior citizens. It looked like the Social Security Act. In fact, the Social Security Act that Roosevelt passes is in response to what Townshend says. Townshend says that senior citizens should, it was a crazy little plan, but it became very popular, that they would involve a tax of the rich. The tax would go to the seniors. The seniors would get this money, this pension, and they would have to spend this money immediately. Townshend's idea was that what would happen is, if we gave seniors money and told them they had to spend it, that would be great, because they would spend it, which would spur jobs and things in the economy, and it would also give them money to spend so they could take care of themselves. It didn't, on the face of it, it looked like a great plan, but if you really delved into it and tried to figure it out, it didn't work. The tax wouldn't work. There's no mechanism to force people to spend money. So Townshend's plan doesn't quite get there, but in response, Roosevelt passes the Social Security Act. Last but not least was the big critic, the guy who got the most traction, the guy who might have, had he lived, been able to unseat Roosevelt. His name was Senator Huey Long. They called him the Kingfish. He was a first governor of Louisiana, then later senator of Louisiana before he was assassinated. Huey Long's plan was to, what he called, share the wealth. He wanted to cap how much money any one individual could have, and then anything over that cap, he wanted to take that money and redistribute it to the poor. This actually got a lot of traction. A lot of people followed Huey Long, and at one point he showed up as more popular in polls than Roosevelt. But lucky for Roosevelt, I guess, and very unlucky for Mr. Long, he gets assassinated. So Long is never going to be, he was running for president until he was assassinated, so he never does get a chance to challenge Roosevelt. Pause here. Speaking of the election of 1936, FDR runs again for a second term. He's the hero of workers because he's given them jobs, given them hope. Blacks because he actually includes them in all these New Deal programs and makes sure that they get to play a part in the New Deal programs. Farmers because he is helping them tremendously. The Agricultural Adjustment Administration and other acts are helping farmers get back on their feet. FDR is a hero to them. The Republicans put up a guy named Alf Landon. Nobody named Alf is going to win anything. Alf Landon, governor of Kansas. Landon says Roosevelt's going too far. We need to back off all these programs. They're not really working. It's not really happening. FDR destroys him. The people really like FDR. His fireside chats make him very popular. His programs, his attempts to help, even if you don't like exactly what he's doing, at least he looks like he's doing something. FDR wins by one of the largest electoral victories in American history. The New Deal continues. In fact, Roosevelt calls it the second New Deal. He comes out with a flurry of new stuff to help people out. He's going to come up with even more bills, more legislation, as he continues to try to use the power of the government to help people. Pause here. So what are the results of the New Deal? The New Deal is going to change people's belief in the responsibility of government. Before the New Deal, it was basically your problem to take care of. Charity was your problem. Social Security in old age, that's your problem. Health care, that's your problem. Everything is, you put money in the bank, that's your risk. Everything is on you. After the New Deal, people start to agree that the government should deliver public services. They should intervene in the economy. They should act in ways to promote the general welfare. The government should become involved. They shouldn't put it all on you. The government should do something. So the big change in public's belief, it's a huge change, that the public should get involved and should intervene in the economy. And that's a big, big change in the way people think. Okay, so make sure you know these three things. Pause here. Did it work? Did the New Deal work? All these changes in government, all these government programs, some of which were ruled unconstitutional, some of which the Supreme Court said you can't do that, some of which provided lots of jobs, some of which didn't seem to do much anything. But did the whole thing work? Did that whole New Deal, the whole idea work? Well, it really depends on who you ask. Very much still debated today. Liberals say it was the greatest thing that ever happened. It gave a safety net to people. It helped us out in the long run. It saved us from the Great Depression. Liberals say it's great. Liberals, for the most part, in case you're curious, liberals, the Democratic Party. They say that not only did it save us from the Depression, we need to expand upon it. Liberals today are trying to expand upon the New Deal programs. Conservatives, the Republican Party, say it put us on the road to socialism. It was a disaster. It didn't do anything good. It just spent a lot of government money, put us in debt, set us up so we were dependent on the government to help solve our problems. It was a disaster. And the only thing that saved us from the Great Depression was World War II. World War II gave us lots of jobs, sent people out to produce for the war and manufacture things and all that. So it was the thing that saved us, not the New Deal. So it really depends on who you ask. But whether you think it worked or whether you think it didn't, it did change things. And I will pause here for a second, then go back and take a look at something. So pause here, get this down. Okay, here's what it really changes. Again, the idea that the government is responsible for delivering public services, intervening in the economy, and acting in ways to promote the general welfare. That's the change. It changes the American psyche forever. So that brings us to the end of the New Deal. We are on the verge of World War II. So that's the end.